talk about our 2023 crime stats. As you know, we finished the year. We usually takes us 2 to 3 months to get final reports over to records and get them all reconciled. So we're ready to report those out today. And before we go over the slides, I'm going to have Chief Medina say a few words.
You know, one of the things that I think that I'm very proud of and where we've come from with crime stats is, and if you look back the past several years, you know, it's really, we talk about auto theft. Auto theft is down. And towards the end of the year, we started really working on being able to put out more information, not only on the crimes that are going down, that should be going down, but I really started talking about, and you heard me during press conference talk about proactive measures going up and how we had seen increases, because I think it's important for us to also ensure that work is being done and the police department's moving in the direction. So today, we're going to be a little different than we've always been in the past. We're also going to add in and talk about proactive measures, arrests, traffic citations, felony warrants cleared of information that should be going up. For example, we had a 26% increase in felony warrants and a 28% increase in misdemeanor warrants being cleared. And traffic citations saw a 42% increase from 22 to 23. I think it's important for us to recognize the hard work of our officers and what they've got. And yes, we're going to go in and we're going to talk about some of the other measures that we like to talk about. For example, motor vehicle theft is down from 6,036 in 2022 to 5,280 in 2023. And those are the stats we like to see. But we also have other proactive measures that are going up. And it's not just based because of us being more proactive, it's because we've changed processes. We're going to see firearms violations increase drastically. And the biggest tie to that is the fact that we have ShotSpotter combined with the NIBINS program, and we now send a second group of officers or employees out to look for shell casings, and we're recovering more shell casings than we ever had in the past. But we're also going to see that there's a correlation, we believe, between the increase in felony warrants cleared and the amount of narcotic arrests that we saw an increase. The increase is really close to one another, and a lot of that we're attributing to the fact that our officers are making arrests for individuals with warrants, and as they're conducting searches of these individuals, they're finding narcotics on them, which are leading to additional charges. So we're going to go through these slides. I know that there are some categories that we need to take a clear look at. Property crimes, for example. Property crimes numbers you're going to see are up. But we also saw a vast increase in the second half of the year. We really pushed for people to start reporting shoplifting. When you take the shoplifting numbers out, property crimes is down. So I think it's important that you get in the weeds, and I know the critics will stick to the numbers that benefit them the most. But I think most everyday citizens are going to look at the individual number categories itself and recognize that there's a lot of hard work put in last year by our officers, and there's a lot of success that are inside of those numbers. So I just want to thank all of our officers and professional staff for all of their hard work last year. They're the ones that brought us to this point. At the conclusion of this press conference on statistics, we are going to make an announcement on an update on our DWI investigation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gilbert, and he will be getting later some of the more individualized stats out to everybody.
Yeah, so we'll make that other announcement right after this, and Chief will take questions on that. So just going through the slides that we typically do this. So just a reminder, we went through the NIBRS, switched to the NIBRS reporting from the FBI that all agencies have to report by. We started that in 2018, so now we have a pretty good amount of data to compare to. So looking first, and they categorize it by 3 major categories. So one is crimes against property, which is mainly property crimes, obviously. There was one oddity, robberies included in this and not in crimes against person, whereas in the past stat system, it used to be a violent crime. So just a couple things to keep in mind. But if you look at when we started reporting through NIBRS, we've had an 18% decrease in crimes against property. This year, it's about the same. I mean, the last really 4 years since COVID in 2020, we've been pretty static on property crimes against property. Chief did mention, so I think if you go to the next slide, or maybe a little bit, we'll get on that a little bit on shoplifting. So here's crimes against person, which is primarily violent crimes like homicide, rape, kidnapping, aggravated assault. This does include lesser crimes that aren't violent, but it's still primarily violent crimes. So that is up over 6 years. It's been pretty constant, if you see. So really up 3% over since 2018. We did have a dip last year for the first time, and that went back up this year. And the thing that I would caution against is, so homicide's the big category that everybody looks at, but really in the end, it's only 100 crimes or incidents, whereas aggravated assault and some of these other categories are in the thousands. So this category is all over the board. So it's kind of hard to draw conclusions from the overall overarching category as opposed to going to individual ones, but we'll go through that. And the third category is crimes against society, which is a little bit of an odd, always been an odd category. It tends to be a little more enforcement oriented. So the big increases over the years have been, number one, Chief mentioned the gun crimes. That's primarily due to ShotSpotter. And what happens is when we go and collect casings, officers or investigators go collect casings, each one is considered an incident. It's a priority 2 incident that counts as a crime. So before ShotSpotter, we had very few of these incidents. Over the years, it's skyrocketed. It will probably be pretty steady from here on out, unless we dramatically increase our ShotSpotter coverage. But there's an advantage to that, because when we collect the casings, Chief mentioned going through NIBIN and doing those investigations, it's helping us to solve a lot more crimes. The other, just back one more. So the other big category, and we'll get into it in a minute, is narcotics. So that has increased quite a bit over the last few years. And a lot of that, we've talked to our records department and our narcotics officers, and it's both trafficking investigations, but also much more aggressive on even low-level fentanyl possession. And that could be part of another crime, or it could be a standalone crime, but you guys have seen all of our efforts on Central Avenue, and they are making a lot more arrests on that. So that's driving that number up. So it is more crimes and it's more enforcement. And then here's a specific example. So this year, if you look within crimes against property, and we'll have everything posted on the website, and you can look at every single category, but this caught my eye with shoplifting, and towards the end of the year, really in the last 4 to 6 months, it really started going up. So 5,000 incidents the year before, last year 7,200. As you know, we were doing our retail organized crime operations, and as part of that, Commander Hartsock sent letters to these businesses, to Walgreens and a lot of the partners in the big box stores, asking them to report crimes. If they're not reporting them, it's harder to investigate it. So part of that increase is due to more reporting. Part of it's due to more enforcement. And I think obviously the fact that we're focusing on that is because there's just an overall increase in the level of shoplifting and organized retail crime. I've seen it across the nation in the last couple of years. I've seen it here definitely at these stores. So I think a lot of that's reflected in this slide. And also, if you would have taken that out, you saw that was a 22, if you want to go back one more. So if you take that 2,200 incident difference, if it was the same and we had the same amount of reporting, same amount of investigating, property crime would actually look like it's going down this year. But since that's gone up, that has made it kind of equal, leveled out. Crimes against person, once again, is more violent crime. The biggest indicator on that is homicides, like I said. So it's a lot of homicides, but it's a small in terms of the number of thousands of incidents. But we did see a 19% increase from the year before. Decrease, yeah. In the year before, I think we were at 110 the year before that. So, and Chief's talked about that. We've talked a lot about homicides and our investigations and our detective academy and a lot of the work that's gone into that. The other part we probably should have included in here, but we've talked about this also, is the solve rate and the number of cases we've solved. So 2 years and going into this year, we're still seeing an incredible number of cases solved, people arrested, and we think that's having a difference across the board. And then I mentioned a while ago, so crimes against society, this is the drug narcotics violation. So as you can see, quite a big difference between 2022 and 2023. So a lot of that's both low-level arrests and incidents, as well as drug trafficking. So we don't publicize the trafficking as much. That tends to be partnerships with the DEA, and we're limited in how much we can report out there, but it's happening. And we're getting 2 to 3 notices every single day showing you know, Adam Market and that area has been a huge problem, and we've seen a lot of it happen around there, but it's happening throughout the city, and our task forces are doing a lot of work on that.
You know, and this one, Gilbert, I just want to add, I think this is really important to look at because there is this false narrative in the community at times that our officers aren't enforcing narcotics violations, especially along Central Avenue. We hear it over and over. Oh, officers they're not out, they're not doing. This shows they almost doubled the amount of narcotics violations that they are enforcing throughout the city. So without a doubt, our officers had 1,000 more enforcement activities with individuals throughout the city, and that's both our detectives who are working larger cases and just our everyday field officers who are taking narcotics off somebody and booking somebody on a simple possession type charge. And it could be both misdemeanor or felony.
And the other part of that is we're seeing so many of these, but obviously we know that a lot of these offenses and the shopliftings and those are people who go in jail and come right back out. So obviously to actually make a difference and lower the actual crime and the underlying crime, it's going to be take a concerted effort to address the addiction and those types of efforts that's driving this crime. So, you know, while we're making a lot of improvement on the enforcement side, we still have a ways to go to actually curb the problem. So that's a huge thing that's on our minds, and I think it's going to take the entire criminal justice system. Did you talk about the telephone reporting and all of that yet?
No.
So and DC Griego, maybe you could just mention a little bit about it. So that's just another aspect of our increased reporting over the years with both of these reporting.
Hi, I'm Deputy Chief J.J. Griego. I have the Support Services Bureau, which includes the Records Division and the Communication Center. One of the things that we did in order to foster this relationship between businesses and APD, excuse me, is to make it easier for them to report. So what we did is we opened up our telephone reporting unit and our online reporting to make it easier for them to report. So we've seen exponential increases in reporting through that way.
I think that's one of the handouts you put out there, so it's growing dramatically.
You know, I think it's important just to talk, we stated earlier, is like we could go through each, and Gilbert, we giving you information on each individual category, like we talked about theft from vehicle, 2022, 4985, 4923, not a big reduction, but still a reduction. Burglary, which includes commercial and residential, 4,500 in 2022, 3,800 in 2023. Robbery almost cut in half, 1663 versus 984. And like I said, Gilbert will finish getting some of these statistics out to you. But I think it's important, like I stated, that this is one of the first years we could come and we're not just talking about the crime categories we saw going down, like those that I just mentioned on the property side, the robbery side, the homicide side, but we're also talking about the productivity of officers going up. And I think that was something important that we're able to get to, and we know that we've made a lot of changes to our processes. We're taking more telephone reporting and online reporting than ever before, which is clearing our officers up to go out and be proactive in the community. We know that we've changed use of force processes, and our level 1 uses of force, officers are clearing those faster than they ever had in the past, putting officers back in the service to help get it. So we're hoping that we continue to see two trends, that the crimes that are key to the community continue to decrease, and that the enforcement activities and the production by the police department continue to increase. And hopefully we could continue that out through the duration of the year, and we could have another good year statistically, both showing the increases we should be seeing, which is something we've never really been able to talk about in past years, and also showing that those key crime categories that I talked about seeing a decrease, a continued decrease within the community. And just an update on the DWI investigation case. Officer Alba, on the eve of being called in for his internal affairs interview, has chosen to resign from the Albuquerque Police Department. So that paperwork is going to be processed, and then that's the only update we have at this time. We're continuing our internal investigation and continue to cooperate and work with the FBI on their criminal investigation. And we'll kind of leave that at that because, you know, we are limited in what we can say.
Are you taking questions?
Yes.
I'm not pointing in regards to your crime stats, but just to be clear, you said Officer Alba, A-L?
Yes.
B-A?
A-L-B-A. Yes.
Okay, cool, thank you. In regards to the first chart, the crimes against property, if I'm not mistaken, you stated that's including robberies?
Yes,
Because you guys are, it's better like for us to visually see it and the specifics of it to break it down. Like, I mean, toward the end it's easier, but you guys bunched up a lot of categories. Are you guys gonna?
Gilbert's gonna give that out. And actually, this is the sheet he's gonna be sending out that breaks down certain categories. It just got caught up and it didn't get in the packet, but
Oh,
this
okay,
is
so
kind
we'll
of the
do that.
sheet that shows the specifics of burglary, motor vehicle theft, felony arrests, felony citations, online reports. In 2018, we were only taking 8,400. In 2023, 21,000. So we've almost tripled the amount. Every one of those reports online instead of an officer going out is why we're seeing those increases in production we want. Same thing with telephone report unit, 2019, 10,000, 2023, 16,000, 64% increase.
And to be clear, the telephone reporting, you guys see an increase in calls. That's people making calls in regards to what's going on.
That's
right?
people making reports over the telephone.
Okay, and you guys see an increase in that?
Yes.
You
compared
want
to-
to mention the auto theft, the shift that we did?
Yeah, because
Yes.
I'm confused. Is that included in the crimes against property, the auto? it's-
Whatever is reported online or in telephone report unit does reflect onto our stats at the end of the year.
Okay.
So it's not like you report telephone wise or online wise and all of a sudden those stats get left out. It's the same process. It goes through our record system and the statistics are added. So a burglary that was taken over the phone is counted the same way as a burglary taken by an individual officer.
We just talked about the auto theft, how we're requiring people to,
Can we get the numbers
you
for
got,
that?
we'll give you the numbers.
Yes,
I'm talking
give us-
about just the reporting process for auto theft.
Yeah, one of the things, and you know, at times there's been individuals and there's those that see the value in us not dispatching an officer to where a car was stolen from and the car's not there and the offender's not there. And those that don't like that. But we know that we're seeing the increase in production because we require individuals to report certain crimes over the telephone. Traffic accidents that are drivable, that's basically done for insurance purposes. We now have moved those out to people reporting those at a substation or doing it in some other fashion rather than having two officers go out and take the report when possible. We've also moved auto theft. If there is limited offender information, the car is not located, and reporting a car is different than recovering a car, and there's different ways. We always have to send an officer out to recover a car because we have to process it and do the evidence. So there are key things that we need to remember in all of these, and there are ways we could do telephone report unit, but it doesn't mean it's the entirety of the call all the way through. Yes,
Quick question as far as Officer Alba, what day exactly did he resign?
today. I got
Today.
notified this morning that he had resigned.
Okay, and his IA interview was scheduled for tomorrow.
His IA interview, I think I think it's scheduled either today or tomorrow. I'll have to get back with you, but I think it was actually scheduled today. It might have been tomorrow. But
Okay.
either way, he resigned. Early this morning, I was notified.
Does these resignations, now two of them in connection to the DWI, does that tell you anything as chief?
You know, of course, I have a lot more details and information that I've been privy to, and I could just say this is, I'm not shocked that they resigned.
To the crime stats situation, overall, in general, a few sentences of what these stats show you as a department.
I think the most important thing it shows is there's a balance of, and we are able to now better explain that we have in the past of crime categories we want to go down, and they're all in there. The same categories we've always used: auto theft, auto burglary, robbery. They're all in there, and we're seeing a lot of those categories go down. But we're also seeing some go up. Without doubt, shoplifting continues to rise. I mean, this year, the first 2 months, shoplifting is through the roof. But we've worked very hard because we heard the narrative over and over. And Deputy Chief Griego alluded to it, is we got to get these reported. We got to get these reported. Too many times we were seeing incidents online, and as we started to investigate them, a report hadn't even done so. We've done a good job in getting them to report shoplifting, and we will have to live with the fact that those numbers are going to skyrocket. So we do see some numbers going up, which are either expected because of what we're doing or because of enforcement activities, but we're seeing other key indicators that really truly impact people, like the property crimes, that are going down. And for so long, we were judged on homicides. No matter what crime went down, the consensus was always like, how about homicides? They've gone up. Well, last year we could say homicides drastically went down. So I also do recognize that there's how many of different media outlets in here? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. There'll be 9 different stories. And there'll be some stories about the great work we've done, and there'll be some stories about the poor work we've done, and the numbers show it. So I also recognize I'm not going to satisfy every single member of the community, and that it's important that we just put out the statistics, and what everybody chooses to do with them, they can do with them, but those are the numbers.
Just a follow-up
Yes.
to that too, Gilbert touched on it, especially with the yellow category, the crimes against society. As far as drug use and other things, like you said, property crimes that affect business owners, things like that. Okay, you find the person, they're arrested, you guys did your job, enforcement, and then they're out of jail the next day. Therefore, you know, it's hard to see that our streets are any safer. Business owners are getting knocked on 3 different times in a couple weeks. So is there a frustration there that you're not seeing the fruits of it as much as maybe you'd like to?
There is a frustration, but there's hope. Just 3 days ago, I sat with the governor at a table. I saw her make the announcement. There's a possibility of a special session for incompetency and us dealing with these individuals. Let's face it, the vast majority of individuals that we're dealing with that are involved in these types of disturbances in the community, a lot of them are suffering from mental health crisis, are in mental health crisis and need resources. And we've arrested them. And we've firsthand seen how this system has failed us. And it's not the police department, it's not just the courts, it's not the DA's office. The whole criminal justice has failed them. And I can't think of anything more prevalent than the shooting we had outside the main. This individual, and you've all done the stories, this individual was inside of a cell and didn't even want to go to court and was released back into the community. And we got to stop doing that. We have to get people to the resources and the help that they need so that they're better, not so that we clear a case, not so that we clear a docket, not so there's one less case to prosecute, one less case to hear, or one less arrest for us to make. We have to do it so we get the individuals the long-term help that they need. I just came, as I was about to walk into this meeting, several years ago, you may have seen a post of me about George. I visited a guy named George on the streets with Street Connect. And about a year later, we did a follow-up story to it, and they talked about how George was now in housing, and we did a follow-up picture to that. I just walked in and I got an update on George from the person who was involved in. I planned to go visit George because George is now 2 years long, I think they said. Was it 2 years? 2 years where George has been in an apartment, or a year on his own, and that is a success. We need to find ways to help people like George get to where they have suitable housing, they're able to care for themselves, and they're able to help themselves. George was one of those unhoused we dealt with consistently in the community. The officers knew him, but he's taking his life and the process was worked. We need to put that process on steroids. And in order to do that, we need funding. And we need everybody to work together. Yes, there's frustration, but I feel that there is a lot of hope in the fact that a special session or people starting even just to recognize that we have to change the way we do stuff, and hearing the words, a possible session to deal with competency, is something none of us have heard in the last 10 years at the rate that we're hearing it right now. We're starting to recognize it as a community. 2 years ago, we talked about detention and keeping people in jail. Has anybody really heard Chief talk about that? We worked together. We're doing more detention cases, and yes, I'd love to still see more. And the state legislature heard us, and they made a new law that's going to go into effect in July. We're now at that point with unhoused, and we need to make some changes within the criminal justice system to put long-term solutions and stop using the Band-Aid of our officers giving somebody a ticket, because we don't arrest them. We have a settlement agreement that says we can. And then 2 weeks later, that ticket turns to a warrant. We take them to the jail, and I would be willing to say 90% of those cases are credit time served and the individuals released, never once getting the help that they needed. Yes, Matt?
It's obviously soon. You guys probably just got these stats, but is there any, I know you usually change your tactics depending on what crimes are up, what crimes are down. Are there any things that you're planning on doing in the future as a result of what these stats show at this time?
Not what these stats are showing, but we're already seeing trends in January and February in terms of burglary. And Deputy Chief Barker and Vega I have seen that we did see an increase in burglary for the first 2 months of 2024, and they've already started to plan an operation. And I love the question because it really starts to show how our processes we put in place, especially Duke City staff, fight zone. I shot my math, and I was
Now you
giving
gotta,
Gilbert.
you know what I'm
Got to do
saying?
the math.
For clarity and everything.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4 original, then 5, 6. We had a total of 6 on leave, and I could be wrong.
One transfer.
And 1 transferred, a 7th transferred.
And 5 on leave and 1 transfer.
5 on, and then 2 have resigned.
I wanna repeat that just to make sure.
Hold on, give me
I'll go and look.
1 second, give me 1 second thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6 were on leave, 2 have resigned, and 4 are still on leave being investigated. You might be right, but it might be 5. Gilbert get you the exact numbers.
Hold on, because you're on camp, so I just
Yes.
wanna make sure I don't wanna say the wrong thing, so do you wanna?
Yes, let Gilbert get you the exact numbers. Let me make sure.
And
If I had a
then as
pencil,
of
I'd write it
today,
down.
no charges have been filed.
That is in the hands of the United States U.S. Attorney and FBI. I would refer all questions to the criminal investigation to those 2 entities.
So no officers are on reassignment anymore.
There is one that has been reassigned, and he's still on reassignment, and we've had 2 resign, and Gilbert will get you the exact number of what we have left on leave. If I had a pencil, I could write their names down, and I'd think about it,
Make
but
sure. Thank you.
still have 4. We have 4 on leave, 2 resigned, and 1 that is transferred. That's fact right there.
All right, cool, thank you.
Any other questions? Don't make me do math again without a pencil.
I just want to clarify one thing to your point earlier about us having robbery.
Oh,
Well, yeah, because they were bunched up and just.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we don't decide what categories they go in. They're promulgated by the FBI as part of the NIBRS program. So it's not like we're selecting to report that. I don't agree that robbery should not be a violent crime, but we don't get to pick those categories.
Robbery includes armed robbery, right?
yes.
does.
I don't understand there's logic either, but I'm with JJ. Thanks.
Thank you. It's a little last zone.
Gilbert, can you triple check that?
Yeah.
Is it 7?
Can you send us an email?
I think the last number.
I thought it was-
right.
Just to
I
make
think the